detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. Another horror episode, just Jared and me this time. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Jared.
Yes.
Let's see how this plays out.
Very excited.
Excited's not the word I was going to use, but let's see how this plays out, because again, it's another one that I haven't spent a lot of time with recently.
No, I haven't watched it in quite a while. I think the last time I watched it was when I watched the Never Sleep Again doco, which was quite a few years back. Yeah, I kind of ran through the series in sort of turn with the chapters in the doco.
Good way of doing it.
So yeah, it's been a little while.
So it'll be interesting. I'm sure it'll be an interesting review.
That's one word for it.
Let's go to what we've been watching. What's your
short list for me? I spent a bit of time with Nosferatu on Amazon.
Oh yeah, is that the
Joe Hill? Yeah. So I listened to the audiobook.
Is it any good?
Before I started the series. It's all right. I like the idea. I like the book. The show streamlines some stuff, changes the timeline quite significantly.
Yeah.
Tries to add a little bit, which sometimes comes off as a bit naff in the show. The way they're kind of describing the abilities and things like that. And they try to add a little bit of backstory that wasn't in the book for Charlie Manx, who's the bad guy. Some of it works, some of it's not so great. Yeah. All in all, I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
There are parts of it that drag a little bit though, but it's got some really cool, it's got some really interesting relationships between the family members. The main character starts as a young girl, and then in the book there's an age difference of, I don't know exactly the age difference, but it feels like it's probably mentioned explicitly in the book, but I think it's about 15 odd years between the start and the finish. Yeah. In the series it's not. She's just a young girl the whole way, and I can see why, because they might want a series 2 out of this. Sure. But yeah, it plays with kind of, I think some of the strengths of the book are still in the series. I like the kind of relationships developing between her and her parents, because it's quite a complicated sort of back and forth between her and her parents. Her dad especially, who's painted as doing some pretty terrible shit, but is still kind of likeable in his own ways. He's still on his side in some ways, yeah, which is really sort of confronting in a way, because you're like, I don't dislike the guy, but the stuff that he's done is not great. Yep. So yeah, it's still interesting enough in those ways. Still enjoying it. I think I've got about 3 episodes to go.
So Amazon Prime coming out with Amazon some fresh Prime, yeah, originals. Yeah. Some of the original stuff is probably where I'm looking more to hang on to it than some of the other stuff that they're dropping. Although they still are, sneaking the odd little underappreciated 80s and 90s kind of movies on there. What if that's the way you want to describe them. The Bouncer, JCVD. How is he? I quite liked it. Yeah? I quite liked it. He has to do a little bit of... Is it more of a drama than an action picture? It's sort of an action picture, but with more of those European kind of sensibilities, I think, where they spend a little more time on the character, and he is required to do a little more acting than usual, and the action scenes aren't how we would normally see action scenes done. They're a little bit different. Yeah. But I quite liked it. Okay. So if you like JCVD, I'd probably check it out. It's not a classic, but it's better than what you would normally get from him. Okay. In my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm a JCVD fan, so I'll probably check it out. You'll love it. I don't know why, but I just felt the need to try to find the Berry Gordy martial arts flick, The Last Dragon. Obviously, Berry Gordy being the Motown music producer. I don't know. I decided. What was his involvement? Was he in it, or was he? No. Made it. I think he put the money up for it and whatever. So it's essentially a martial arts flick with, African American actors, and it was okay. No, it's not. It's not terrible. It had some really stupid parts, but some of it was okay. It's just kind of like I don't know. It's got a bit of a bloody sort of Double Dragon kind of feel to it in some ways. Okay. And it's just what year was it? An 80s film? 85, I think. Right. Vanity's in it. I seem to be inadvertently just working my way through Vanity's filmography. The hit song from the movie was Rhythm of the Night.
Oh, yeah.
DeBarge. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't go seeking it out unless you had some sort of interest to watch it, which for some reason I did.
Amazon Prime?
There's a couple of streaming places you can get it now, so it wasn't on Amazon.
Tubi?
Not even they wanted to touch it. I didn't check Tubi, funnily enough. I haven't opened Tubi for a while.
You should. They've probably got something you might like.
They might have something, 1 or 2 movies out of the bloody hundreds on there.
Well, someone's got to have that shit. I mean,
true. But this is the problem. There's bloody... By the last check, I think I had access to bloody 6 streaming services. If I include Tubi...
Disney, Netflix,
so
Stan, Tubi...
Stan, Netflix...
Amazon Prime,
Tubi, and I can sneak into Foxtel if required. So there's a little bit of crossover, but there's so much stuff that's still not on there. I was reading something the other day on one of the websites I kind of just frequent every now and then that was mentioning how despite the wealth of streaming services, that owning physical copies of shit that you like is more important than ever, because there's so many that just go under the radar.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, I'm saying it is. Like, there's things that I really, really love to watch that I can't find on any of those things.
That's true.
So if I didn't have them in the cupboard, in the bloody DVD shelf, I wouldn't find them.
Well, we would struggle to do this podcast because how many times
constantly digging through my boxes
through and found a DVD to knock out.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's
and the kind of crap we're interested in, it's probably more likely you're going to have it. You've got to have it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, even the big franchises, the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th, and I've got access to a handful of them. Like, if I go onto Amazon Prime, I can find Friday the 13th 2 and 3.
Yep.
I don't think I can find any of the other ones. Possibly Freddy vs. Jason on one of them.
Yep.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Friday the 13th remake is
Nightmare on Elm Street, good fucking luck, unless it's the remake. They're fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Candyman, they popped up. That was just an example that we were looking for recently. I think one of them popped up on Amazon.
Yeah,
couldn't find the original.
Candyman Farewell to the Flesh.
Yeah, you couldn't find the original on the streaming. So, I don't know. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. Like, it's got access to everything. And Disney too. I'm a little bit disappointed because the reason I jumped on Disney was I wanted to go and see a couple of their more kind of
old school.
That period where one of the bloody sons-in-law or whatever took over and made a couple of random ones like the Black Hole, and then he made the Watcher in the Woods, which was like a horror-ish kind of. And
is
then
that on there?
That's not on there, I don't think. And then Something Wicked This Way Comes isn't on there. Like, a little bit disappointed, but hopefully we get them eventually.
Right.
So yeah, the last thing I watched today was again another kids one.
Spies in Disguise.
Spies in Disguise.
How was it?
It wasn't too bad. I was expecting it to be pretty.
The whole idea
rough.
behind it seems quite
seems
stupid.
Really, yeah. I actually thought it. I was when I was looking at it, I was like, I kind of just like the idea of the inventor guy wanting to be in on the spy stuff, which is probably something we've seen before in different variations. But look, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's coppable.
Given Will Smith's kind of recent form,
output,
a sort of 7 out of 10 effort's not too bad for him.
Yeah, true.
So yeah,
that everything?
That's it.
All right. I had a little bit going. The Confession Killer. I watched that on Netflix.
Yep.
Mate, there is no way that bloke. He said he killed 500 people.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Not on your life. There's 20 that they've discounted from DNA.
Yeah.
Including one where he confessed she disappeared. They didn't know where her body was.
Yep.
They found her car with her corpse in it in a frozen lake. She had drowned.
Right.
She'd driven into the lake and drowned. And this fucking bozo
claimed it.
What it was, what I think the documentary did reasonably well, I'm not saying he didn't kill people. I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah.
But he was talking in the hundreds.
Yeah.
And
just to clarify, this is the bloke that Henry
Lee Lucas
was based on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had that fucking weird accomplice of his too,
Otis Toole.
Yeah.
It basically showed that the police in a lot of these places wanted to close cases, essentially.
Yeah.
And Henry Lee
And
Lucas.
at a time, probably didn't have the resources
Yes.
to come up with anything other
Well, they
than
couldn't
this
look
bloke
into it.
confessed. Yeah.
Yep. They couldn't look into it. And what they were doing, and as one bloke was saying, a district attorney was saying, if you watch the tapes, they come in with crime scene photos and shit, and they show them to him,
Yeah, and
then he
go
just
for it.
cooks it all together.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he came up in a shit family, and he was a piece of shit. He was getting treated like a great guns.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he was just continuing to confess.
Yeah.
I mean, they did one thing where they actually showcased in 1 month, he said he killed 25 people across America, and they tracked it all out, 11,000 miles by car.
Yeah.
And they said he could have been on a fucking Scud missile and he wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
So I think he was just a giant liar.
Yeah.
And the cops basically used it.
To close a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one guy on there who refused to admit. Surely at least surely you're looking at it and going, yeah, maybe he didn't. He confessed to a few that he didn't do.
Yeah, yeah.
At the very least, you might be thinking,
Yeah.
well, yeah, okay, there's probably a couple that, he kind of went for. Because he recanted all of it later.
Yeah.
Look, it was interesting. It wasn't brilliant. It wasn't really good. I put it on par with something like the old Evil Genius. With similar amount of genius.
Yeah.
But it wasn't great stuff, but it was interesting.
Yep.
We watched the second season of You. Look, the show grew on me. I didn't particularly think the first season was that great. I understood what it was going for, and I found it interesting in the sense that it was kind of like a stalker's tale told from the stalker's perspective, and they're trying to make you feel like he's likable.
Yeah.
And the guy who plays him is good. He's really good. The second season threw a couple of little twists into it because they ended it on a kind of a cliffhanger, and it came around quite well because it kind of threw him under the bus a touch. He's suddenly feeling like he's he's being cornered.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of worked in its favour, and it was quite interesting. Look, I wouldn't call it brilliant, but it was quite watchable stuff. I went back to Slasher season 2, Guilty Party.
Yeah.
3 episodes in. You know what my thing about Slasher is? It's actually too long.
Yeah.
Each season could be better served being about 6 episodes.
So why did you jump into season 2?
Because I remember that being my personal favourite.
Right.
And I thought I'd go back to it and sort of retouch on it. And again, I love I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of vibe. Yeah. I love the campground stuff. I love the idea of being snowed in and trapped. But it takes too long to build the characters. So this is why slasher movies are 90 minutes. Because you get it in there, you get your villain, you set them up.
Yeah, it's not known for characters we want to spend 8 episodes with.
And there's only a few that can pull it off.
Yeah.
Like Scream's 2 hours long.
Yep.
But that extra half hour gives you the character development you need. And so it kind of drags. Even though I like what they were doing, it kind of drags. But I'll probably punch through the rest just to see how it plays out again. Because I remember we picked the twist, and I remember not particularly liking it.
No, I don't think that'll improve at all.
It'll be interesting to see how I feel about it after watching it again. I watched a couple of episodes of The World According to Jeff Goldblum on Disney Plus. It's kind of cool. A little half-hour shows where he just takes something that he's interested in, and he goes through it.
Yeah.
And because of his celebrity status, he's got a bit more access than most other people would have. Mm-hmm. He's a weird sort of
eccentric
guy, and so it brings this kind of interesting take on everything. And he always closes out the show by sort of saying what he thinks.
Yeah.
Not, I've got this, that, and the other, and this is what it is. It's kind of how I feel about it.
Yep.
And, he's an engaging cat. So I found it kind of funny and, interesting. So it's not a bad little watch. We watched Moana.
Yep.
On Disney Plus as well. It's just not one of the good ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, I thought it was all right.
It's all right, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
The Rock.
You wouldn't put it on par with any of like the real gem Pixar ones.
No,
Your Toy
not like the
Stories and
best
all
of
that
the
sort of
best.
stuff.
No.
It's a tier lower, but it was okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely looks beautiful. And the technology and the Pixar stuff is at its absolute peak at that point. We watched the Imagineers, the documentary about the Imagineers.
Yep.
Yeah, that was really interesting stuff. It's really interesting to see the whole dynamic of how Walt Disney built it. His
Yep.
brother took over, I think.
Yeah.
And then in 1984, they actually went outside of the Disney Corporation and got Michael Eisner and this
Yeah.
other bloke.
So that was after, because I think it was when the brother died.
Yes.
Was a small period when it was one of the, it was a
Son or
something.
somebody.
And that's when we got the
Some
black
weird
hole and
shit, yeah.
stuff like that. And that's when, I think it was after that is when Eisner came in, right?
So
yeah.
Eisner comes in with this other bloke, and they're businessmen, and the Imagineers were saying, we're finished.
Yeah.
Disney was actually in a bit of trouble financially,
Yep.
and they were saying, we're finished. These guys, they're business guys, they're about finance, they're just going to cut us. And they said day one, these two turned up and said, this is where Disney is made. This is it.
Yep.
You guys, you're going to be the flagship, basically. So that pretty much saved, I think, Disney in general,
Yeah.
and turned it into what it is now.
Yep.
So yeah, it was pretty interesting stuff to see it, because all of them had their difficulties. All the presidents had their difficulties.
Yeah.
Including Walt Disney.
Yep.
And it was really cool to sort of see that play out. And it's quite a well done doco. And the last one is I went and saw last night. I went and saw The Gentleman.
Mm.
Mate,
I've not
I
heard
enjoyed
great
it.
things.
No, I enjoyed it a lot.
Right.
It started slow, and initially I was sitting there thinking, Guy Ritchie was kind of known for snappy dialogue and stuff, and it's not quite there. Feels a little bit forced. But as the show starts to roll on and we start to get into the more of the details of what's going on, it loosens up a bit. And then you add Colin Farrell. When Colin Farrell comes in, things really start to get going. And Hugh Grant is really good as a sleazy reporter sort of telling the story. And it's kind of done in this way of like Hugh Grant's telling it as a tale, as a possible script. So it kind of has all these little additions.
I bumped into Matty outside of the podcast thing, obviously, and he said he saw it and was
unenthused.
So he said it was all right.
Yeah, I
But he
enjoyed
was
it
left a little cold, right?
because Guy Ritchie has he's not really my cup of tea often. I like Snatch, but I don't particularly gravitate towards a lot of his other films. But I found it quite good. I enjoyed it, so definitely worth a look.
There you go.
Yeah. For you on a tight ass Tuesday, maybe?
No, I'm pretty sure I'll wait for streaming. On
Well,
that
you've
one.
got 6 of them, so
Yeah,
it'll be on there
I'll find it
somewhere.
somewhere, or I won't be able to find it somewhere, and then I'll rage on about it and start cancelling a few services until the next month where they drop one movie.
Just to
that I
make a
like.
statement.
I'll be back next month.
But that's it for me.
Excellent.
All right, let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 1988's A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
How long has it been since you've been on Elm Street?
Don't let them put you to sleep.
Welcome to a brand new nightmare. Now no one sleeps!
I knew you'd be back.
A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4. The Dream Master. How sweet. Fresh meat. Rated R. Now playing it.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4 from 1998, The Dream Master, directed by Rennie Harlan, action specialist, directed Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger, produced by Robert Shea, who was the president of New Line Cinema, and Rachel Talalay, who had worked her way up the ladder by that stage. A story by William Kotzwinkle and Brian Helgeland. Now, Brian Helgeland, interestingly enough, wrote Man on Fire and won an Oscar for LA Confidential. And the screenplay is actually by Brian Helgeland, Jim Wheat and Ken Wheat. Now, Ken Wheat wrote Ewoks Battle for Endor. They were using an alias.
Which I'm pretty sure we won't see on Disney Plus.
I don't think so. They were actually using an alias. That's how impressed they were with their work. They were calling themselves Scott Pierce. The two brothers were using an alias.
Oh dear. Well, Scotty Pierce, up and comer.
Yeah, I think Scotty Pierce only wrote this film. Lisa Wilcox is Alice, Danny Hassel is Dan, Tuesday Night is Kristen, and Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. The budget was actually quite a high, $13 million, and made a fairly sizable $49 million in worldwide. I believe that's the highest grossing of the Freddy films, apart from Freddy vs. Jason.
Right.
Oh, and the remake. I think the remake made more money.
I believe you mentioned this one's Robert Englund's favourite too.
Yeah, I think so. That's something I read. Now, Brian Helgeland wrote the script in 7 days.
Doesn't show at all. Was there one?
He wrote the treatment in
I'd love to
7
hear
days.
him talk about it.
He wrote the script notes in 7 days.
I think he wrote the treatment and they worked from that.
Yeah, I reckon. Well, if I'm not mistaken, in Never Sleep Again, Rennie Harlan does make a comment of some, at one point, saying that they were basically making it up.
Yep.
Based on a few ideas that were chucked together. So, how did you feel about this one? Hey, what are you laughing about?
Oh, God. Look,
was Rennie telling the truth, Jared?
Rennie was talking the truth. Rennie was, The thing for me about this one is, for a killer where you've got just a blank canvas, like an open sandbox to play in, the dearth of ideas when he's killing people is fucking indefensible.
Yeah.
Like it's really bad in this one. They don't even sort of tie things into. I mean, I got problems with things like Super Freddy and the power glove and things like that.
But at least
they were tied into something that the person was doing or a fear that they had. This one just seems to be bloody random.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that are just sort of weak links to what the person's doing. There's only really one that I can think of where it's a legitimate fear that the person has.
Yeah, which is the bug.
The bug. This is where, it's where Freddy starts to fall apart. He's not really wisecracking in this one, but he's not scary in the least in this movie whatsoever.
No.
The scariest that Freddy gets is when he's in drag.
I cannot wait to talk about that.
That was the scariest part. I was like, when we fucking both said, "Is that Robert?" It's just, there's just, it just feels like it's just patched together scenes, which makes total sense. If Rennie Harlan's saying they had nothing really, they were just sort of patching these ideas together. There's not really any fucking through line for the main characters. And some of the things that they do are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think it was probably about a 2. There was a couple of moments from Freddy that I liked. Not a great deal. The effects were okay.
Yep.
But it's just a patchwork.
Yeah, for me, the FX are quite outstanding. Most of them are pretty good, even today. And I think I love that kind of old school effects vibe. Even though, yes, it doesn't look as seamless anymore, I love the fact that these guys could kind of take an idea and create something legitimate.
Yeah,
with it.
Well, anything aside from like bolts of energy or things that are, zapping anyone, they look kind of shit, but everything else looks good.
Except perhaps the bug.
Yeah,
just because that kind of looks a little bit cheesy,
yeah.
But I think that would have been really hard anyway. Because
but even that, considering what they're working with, it's passable.
Yeah, exactly. It's well and truly below this quality of Part 3. To go from Part 3 to this is quite poor, because 3 still... Yes, I know 3 was starting to push towards Freddy being this iconic in everything and selling everything.
He was chatting a bit more, yeah.
But there was still a creepiness and a scariness to some of what was going on. There's a couple of dream sequences that I think actually work okay. And I think, look, I'm going to go into bat for Harlan slightly. I would suggest he was given a mandate that this is what this was going to be. It was going to be the MTV Freddy.
Yeah.
And I think he does as best as he can. Considering this is really, I think, his first or second film, I can't remember if it's his first.
I've got a couple of
No, it's
things.
his second.
I've got a couple of things to say about that, but
Yeah, look,
we'll
don't
talk
get me
about
wrong.
that later.
It's fucking not exactly. He's not directed with fucking great panache.
no.
But he does do a couple of stylish things.
Yeah.
And he
Funnily enough, some of the stuff he does with Freddy is some of the stuff that I thought he didn't do so well.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple of times.
Yeah, look.
And mainly there's a couple of sequences where, I mean, the first time we see Freddy, we see him sort of come back to life, and then we see him kind of walking through the yard, and it's just like we're just following him in.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, what are we doing here? There's no menace. There's no nothing to this. Like,
Yeah. And part of it is because it's just so overlit and it's shot in such brightness that Freddy, like, as good as those makeup effects are, you can see the seams when the light is shining directly on him. And it makes him less and less scary. And the film has got no scares whatsoever. There are interesting ideas here, but they're
there's a
just
couple,
fucking
but
shit on.
They're just little nuggets that are left hanging
And
by
it's
themselves.
like they tripped over it.
Yeah.
It ended up in there not by design but just by luck.
Just happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 out of 5. Like at one point I was pushing towards 2.5, but I just can't. Well,
No, I'm not that. I can't disagree.
can't.
I just can't do it.
And look, coming back to Harlan, yeah, it's kind of a like. There, he has his he puts his stamp on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that I love that stamp because the lighting and everything's so fucking over the top. But he does push a couple of nice sequences. The dream sequences, a couple of times he gets some good pieces going. And I would like to have seen what he could have done with a script
With a
that
script?
actually had
Well,
a through line.
with a
and
script.
yeah, not just some napkins.
Don't just turn
It
up
was a
on.
handbag.
Don't just turn up on day one and say, "Do you happen to still have that treatment floating around? Because I don't have a script here. Like,
Yeah,
what are we working with?"
And look, the documentary paints a pretty solid picture that Harlan was basically will work for food at that time. You know, he was looking for work.
Yeah. It was
And
a job.
he basically hung around the
Well, they
office.
essentially said he was bloody sleeping on the couch in the
Yeah.
office or something like
So
that.
he was basically saying, I'll take whatever you got.
give him a job and so he can
How he
afford
fucking-
somewhere to sleep and he'll go
How he
away.
fucking stumbled from this into... At one point, Die Hard 2 was the most expensive movie ever fucking made. How he fucking stumbled himself into that, I'll never know. Based on this thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't have been rushing to throw a bigger picture at him.
But this is the thing, strangely, about Die Hard 2, as a slight side note. He kind of doesn't really know what to do with this, but yet he seemed to know what to do with Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
Maybe because the script was stronger and it was better.
Perhaps the circumstances
And there were
was
people
so
around,
difficult.
people around who already knew the series and
Yeah.
knew what to do.
Perhaps the circumstances were so difficult that what we got out of this was like an impressive bit of work. Considering
Yeah.
to the people that knew what was going on. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. That's just an idea. That,
Well, look, to me, he kind of directs accordingly to what I think he
Yeah.
probably would have been told.
and I mean,
Freddy
like,
is
for
a star.
For the likes list, like I had the intro on there. Like the intro's sort of decent enough job of getting us back onto the familiar ground with the dream and the house and stuff that we're used to, and that's kind of directed in a fashion that you're thinking. Like you're not blown away by it, but you're like, oh yeah, we know this. This is what
He
we're used
sticks
to.
somewhat to what made 3 work in that opening sort of stanza as well. I actually like the fact that it kind of follows on from 3. You've still got the 3 characters from part 3.
Yeah.
You have the whole pulling him into the dream piece. So we still
That's one
kind
of
of
those
knew where we
interesting
were.
ideas that kind of gets left behind.
Because we
again.
pulled fresh meat in.
Well, we pulled Kincaid, we pulled Joey in, and they got shuffled off in quick fashion.
Yeah.
And then we switched the protagonists, which could have been played for a bit of shock value, I suppose, but didn't seem to have it.
No.
But yeah, then the Dream Master stuff is not a patch on what it was in the previous one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was sort of a little bit disappointing, but it was good to. I thought that it showed that the last one, the idea was strong enough that you carry it through. And as annoying as someone like Kincaid can be occasionally, it was good to see a couple of familiar faces, because it's not something we're overly used to carrying on those.
To me, what I would have done is gone slightly differently, and again, rewrite another napkin. Another quick napkin write. But I would have had Kristen as your protagonist to start with. Joey and Kincaid are nowhere to be seen. They've left town or whatever. And then when we pull Alice in, we also pull them back in. Right?
Yeah,
and we actually have them as a through line. We kill Kristen as shock value, and we still have Joey and Kincaid.
Well, I felt like you could have kept one of those around to kind of help us through
give
it.
you the exposition.
To kind of mentor in a way, because they've been in it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it doesn't
really matter, but at the end of the day, that would have been...
They didn't really have any of that sort of stuff.
Because they only had like 2 scenes before they were both killed.
Yeah.
Those 2 kills are actually all right, apart from the dog urinating the fire piss to wake Freddy up. The Kincaid stuff is okay. I like the idea of the big car yard. It's a little hark back to where Freddy was buried.
Yep.
The whole thing where he yells out at Kristen and then it backs up and it shows the entire world is like that.
Yeah.
And I liked his death, you know. I'll see you in hell. Tell him Freddy sent you.
Yeah, tell him Freddy sent you. That one was where it was like the lines from part 3, where it's obviously trying to go for that, as you kind of mentioned, that MTV kind of Freddy's the star, dropping lines and stuff. But that one worked.
Yeah. So we were off to a reasonable start.
Off to a reasonable start, considering.
Joey's death also I didn't mind.
Yeah, it was okay.
But again, what's the fear? Because there was nothing to fear in my mind.
See, this is the thing. I don't mind the ones where they kind of take you... They take the environment that you're in.
I guess that harken back to part 3 as well, because the nurse.
Yeah, it went back to that, but it took, the environment that he was in, that he fell asleep, and it was trying to do the old... Is he awake or is he asleep? Sort of, we knew.
Well, look, there's a woman in a fucking waterbed.
Yeah, we knew.
You're definitely asleep.
But it was sort of like in the environment that you were in.
Yeah.
That's something familiar. That was okay. But the line, that's where it started to, Freddy started
How's this
to
for a
drop
wet
off.
dream?
Yeah. Then we're starting to sort of move into annoying jokester kind of territory.
It was a decent use of a waterbed, but let's face it, the waterbed was the shittest bed in the history of the world. Was it not?
No,
Does anybody still use the waterbed?
I don't know if anyone's still using them, but I didn't mind it.
You couldn't get up. You try and roll out. It was just trouble.
But sometimes you didn't want to. You just stay there.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, not really a like, but a bit of a laugh. A bit of a bloody Karate Kid knockoff montage for some reason.
That's definitely the dislikes for me. He is the worst karate master ever.
For some reason, I'd forgotten about it. I'd forgotten that we get into that. So then we get to this montage of like, hey, and I started laughing. I'd forgotten. It's just one of those things where you haven't watched it for a while and you remember particular sort of visions. I remember this line, I remember that scene. I'd totally forgotten the Karate Kid.
Have a character who's karate skilled.
Yeah.
Hire a karate skilled actor.
Well, it's like what I said, when we were talking about the American accents in the Australian movies, and we're like, there are Americans in Australia that would take a small paying role. So you pick what you're gonna. You
don't need fucking Bruce Lee, but you need someone who can do that stuff.
Okay, so you need a bloke who can pull off the half decent looking kind of suave character and can do a bit of martial arts. I mean, shit, you'll find that everywhere in LA. You'll find tons of them. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I cannot believe that someone went. It's between this guy who's got the karate experience for the karate role or this bloke. His talent puts him over the top.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Yeah.
Why? Like, I'm not saying the actor was that bad. I'm just saying he wasn't a fucking karate guy.
Yeah.
Like, so he looks ridiculous. What's true?
The way that it was done, I think even a bloke with martial arts skills probably would have looked ridiculous as well.
But he could have... Someone with martial arts background could have said, okay, well, let's choreograph it like this.
Yeah.
Good to see that Kristen's mum's still a kind of a thing. outside.
Has not learned a thing.
We're outside the Elm Street house, which, as you said, why hasn't this place been burned to the ground?
Yeah.
And she just... Her car just squeals up out of nowhere. She leaps out. Kristen, get away from that goddamn house! Then she just gets back in the car and goes, and just fucking burns off.
Yeah. She's a real
Good
piece of
for
work.
a laugh, I must admit. I laughed hard there.
Yep. Piece of work. I didn't mind.
Yeah.
There was a couple of lines that we got. We got the tell 'em Freddy sent ya.
Yep.
The how sweet fresh meat.
Yeah.
Was kind of bordering,
Yeah.
but I fell on the I kind of liked that territory.
Well, the idea, it made sense when she walked in, you know.
Yes, yeah, and it made him look kind of scummy and like that was cool.
Mm.
That was about it. I was looking at my likes,
and
I
actually meant a couple.
I literally meant a couple. Yeah, I didn't think that one through, but yeah, there you go. There's a couple of lines that I got.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Felt it necessary to be mentioned.
Look, I'm going to bring this up as a like, but I'm also going to sort of throw a dislike in. Dan rocks up to the funeral looking like a member of Whitesnake. he's in tight black stonewashed jeans, a white collared
At least
shirt.
he picked black ones. Jesus.
White collared shirt, suit jacket, and thin tie.
Nothing wrong with a thin tie.
Somebody recently died. Be a professional and put some slacks on, bro, because it's a funeral, not a fucking nightclub.
He's got his coat. He's got his coat and his tie. Well, let's do away with the traditions. You know, there's still going to be ladies there. I'm going to get into my black jeans and show them what I've got here. Got to show them my best.
Listen, when was the last time you went to a funeral and saw a bloke in fucking jeans?
Well, I've been...
If I'm the bloke in the casket...
Funny you should say that because I've been there. I've seen it. I haven't worn them, but I have seen them.
If I'm in the casket, I'm haunting you,
I've seen the old jeans, untucked white shirt look a couple of times.
Yeah, that doesn't look. Take a good hard look at yourself.
I didn't do it.
If you've done that...
I haven't done it.
Consider it next time you go to a funeral.
Yeah,
that's wrong.
Yeah, look. You're probably right.
I wear a suit and tie to a funeral.
Yeah, standard, yep.
If I don't go with a tie, that's as far as I go. Take the tie off. That's it.
Are you saying you haven't been to one without a tie?
Oh.
Fucking scumbag. Look at you. Jesus, you're pointing fingers left and right.
I may have been without a tie. I cannot 100% confirm. But I'll tell you what, mate, I'm not slithering into my fucking tight jeans to go to a funeral. I got more sense than that. So I went to a funeral.
You might end up going straight to the Whitesnake concert after the funeral.
Exactly. True. Okay. The deja vu sequence.
Yes.
Where it repeats.
Yep.
Cool idea. Could have been a really interesting one that could have been used far more.
I thought it was alright. I thought it's like when Freddy's in control of the dreamscape, whatever you want to call it.
And it was a wrinkle we hadn't seen.
We hadn't seen it.
So Freddy is basically forcing you cannot help.
Yeah, and it's kind of this back and forth, like this idea that the Dream Master can get other people, like the sharing the dreams. But he's kind of fighting back by putting her in a loop while this other thing's going on.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mind that. But
good idea.
It was just this one thing that just got put in, and it was just out of nowhere, and then it just didn't. Nothing paid off.
And to me, you could have used it to come back at the finale. She's caught in the loop, and then she works out how to get out of it.
There was ways that I don't know. There was ways that it felt like it could have been worked into better effect.
All right, put some ideas. Jot some ideas down on a post-it note.
I've got a cocktail napkin right here. We'll jot a few notes down. We'll send it in. I'll shoot it tomorrow, and then we'll come up with the next day. Go, no, sorry, shoot idea. We'll come up with something different.
Send it over to Rennie. See if he's interested in doing a reshoot now.
Yeah,
I really liked the sequence where she gets sucked into the cinema screen. I thought that was really cool. It was really well done, effects-wise. It was kind of had a cool sort of look about it, the old school black and white screen.
Is the same thing, like, it's not trying the are we asleep or are we awake, but it's taking she fell asleep in this locale. That's what we're going to use.
And she gets sucked into the screen, and then you see all the dead characters clapping.
Yep.
We get into the diner and she sees herself. You know, she's old. Freddy appears. The pizza. You know.
Pizza was weird.
It was weird, but it was all
the
sort
sequence as a whole. I
liked it.
Mind, yeah.
And this is what I mean about Rennie Harlan. He kind of at least had his finger on that kind of pulse a few times. It slipped off a couple of times.
Yeah, he had his finger on the pulse a couple of times, and then I think a few times the finger was on the pulse, and he was saying,
"I can't feel the pulse.
I can't find anything here. It's come back. It's come back. We've got another napkin. Found one."
I think that sequence was probably my favourite of the film. It works as a whole, and I liked it. I liked the way it was done.
I find it difficult to single out a favourite.
Well, if it's a two-star
I love
film,
them all equally.
It's fucking hard to single out much. But
yeah,
look, the final showdown was okay. They did feel a little bit like Freddy versus Jason. A little bit of fucking kicking people's heads.
The thing about the rhyme and stuff, again, it's just stuff that's just...
Well, the rhyme was there, it wasn't fleshed out enough to give me the whole idea. Yes, okay.
Yeah,
totally understand.
By the way she does him in.
It was cool the way all the little hands come out.
Well, that's the thing. The way she got the job done was a bit silly. But then when he starts being kind of torn apart by the souls that he's, you know, presumably by the souls that he's taken and things like that, it looks cool. It's a cool visual that works. But it's just on top of a sort of... It's building up on this scene where things are happening that we're like, there's nothing... This isn't a payoff to anything.
You didn't explain it well enough to use it in the finale for me.
Yeah, so
she mentions the Dream Master. She mentions the rhyme, and you hear a small snippet of it, and you know it's kind of like a second verse to the 1-2 Freddy's coming for you, isn't it? Kind of like
basically. Yeah.
So the idea was sound, but you needed to give me more, so I understood it.
Yeah.
And then you can use that.
Like, there's nothing to understand because none of it was as we said. There's no kind of through line. There's nothing built up for this to be. It doesn't have to be something that I see coming, but there's got to be some reason for it to be there.
Yeah.
And this just felt like, fuck, how are we going to do this? We'll just grab at that. Yep, that's what we do.
Oh yeah, the nursery rhyme we mentioned earlier.
So the stuff that worked was like the visual element of the him being torn apart and that sort of thing.
And again, this is what I mean when we were talking about Rennie Harlan, is he's capable with the visuals, but he had zero to actually work with. So he's not he's not sitting there flicking through the script going, oh yeah, all this makes sense. He's just going, what the fuck am I going to do now?
All right, this is what we got. Let's just we'll shoot some shit.
Shoot the absolute shit out of it. We'll just do anything.
Yeah.
Have you got any other likes?
No.
Oh, okay.
Do you?
No, I don't.
Dislikes.
The script is just a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
It is just ideas that somebody kind of cooked up. We better whack that in there. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
But then nobody realises that it needs to actually come back somewhere. And it never does.
And you can still, like, it felt like you can still get some mileage out of that sometimes. But the imaginative kill sequences and the set pieces, sometimes they just fall flat.
Exactly. And more often than not, they fall flat. Because there is nothing it's got nothing to stand on. It's just there.
Yeah.
And then we cut away, we go to another scene and we forget about what we just...
And like we said, the imaginative parts are just not tied into fears or interests or... I mean, the stuff on the beach, where the fuck did that come from?
Oh, it was go to your happy place. But still...
Oh, I mean... Oh,
Christ.
Yeah. I just couldn't... Yeah, I don't know. But even if you go to your happy place, it felt like we should have known something about what's going on here. It's I just felt like the blank canvas was just wasted. You got so many, like, the ideas that you can come up with for what this guy can do, they were bland.
Yeah. Freddy talks far too much. And I said to you, and I'm trying to be diplomatic about Robert Englund here. I love the man in several of his Freddy performances are really good. Part 1, Part 3, even Part 2. There are moments when he's good. New Nightmare. He works better when he's scary.
Yeah.
He's trying to be scary. He's fucking awful here. He is. It's on par with 6.
I'm glad you gave him plenty of raps because now you just.
Well, it's on par with 6 with him mugging and making all these weird noises when he, you know, like, and laughing, over laughing and stuff. Like, nobody's reining him in because there's no reason to. I guess by this stage, New Line's going, Freddy's our star. He gets max screen time. We get as much as we can wring out of it. And that's what they just do, and they let him go. And you know what? You were wrong.
Yeah.
Freddy doesn't work when this is what you're doing with him.
Yeah, I'd agree.
He even works better in 5, which is not a good film either. But
yeah, I don't love 5. I think 5's a pretty bad movie as well. But I remember when I was watching it, I felt like I was giving 5 a bit of credit for at least trying
to go back
to do something. But yeah, like. It seemed like they were in the same situation. Like Stephen Hopkins seems to talk about that they were essentially receiving pages the day that they were supposed to shoot them and stuff like that. So they were all under some under some duress trying to punch out a successful movie.
And look, this is a funny thing you find in a lot of these franchises from back then, is that they instead of realising this is a money spinner and people will wait. And give us another year. They were saying we need to have one every year.
Yeah.
Basically.
While the fire's burning,
exactly.
We need to fucking keep throwing paper on it as quick as we can.
It's not scary at all.
No. It's probably one of the least scary of a lot of them. I mean, even Part 6, I hate Part 6, but the town without the kids, for how ridiculous it is, there's still parts of it where you're kind of like, oh, it's a bit unsettling. This one, there's not a shred of scare in it.
No, not at all.
It's really...
And again, it works against what Freddy does best.
Yeah.
Which is be in the shadows.
Well, this is the thing. The very first time we see him, we get the cool scene of the body coming back together. Probably doesn't look as good as like the Hellraiser one, but the body coming back together is a similar effect and looks pretty good. And then the next thing you know, we get Freddy ambling around the corner of the cars looking for Kincaid. But you're looking at it and you're like, as you said, you can see everything. He's not in shadow. He's just waltzing past with the glove up and the grin, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
This is what I was saying about.
Why was that the Freddy that caught on?
And the same in the classroom. Remember when the classroom starts and you see Freddy in the classroom, and you basically get the shot of you see all of him in the shot, and he just kind of starts walking to the table.
Yeah.
And it's not fucking scary. It's not played out like it's going to be scary or anything. It's just a shot of him walking to the table. It's like they felt like him being on the screen was scary enough, and it's not.
And maybe they just weren't going for scary. I mean, it's pretty obvious they weren't.
Well, I don't think it's obvious that they weren't. I just don't think they did a very good
job. They were
They wanted more Freddy. They wanted Freddy up front. I think this is...
They were going for camp.
MTV Freddy, they're trying to get him to be the star, and they want him in there more, but it just didn't really work.
Yeah, well, strangely, it worked. It actually box office wise.
In a way, it felt like he was on screen less.
Was he?
I don't know. It just, to me, it felt like he was actually on screen a bit less, but he was not effective.
But I think when I mean they wanted to see more of him, it was actually more of his actual visage. Here he was.
Yeah.
We want to see his face. We want to see his burned.
I think
the makeup and everything. And I just don't know. That just didn't work for me.
No,
maybe I'm a crusty old idiot, and I want to see Freddy. I yearn for the days of Freddy in Part 1.
But I mean, you can still see the guy on screen and still, like, he can still be more present and scary, surely.
Yeah, surely. They didn't do it well.
No.
At all. Rick is not a karate expert's ass. I think we've covered that. No. He's also not much of a nunchuck specialist either. And Alice also seems to have turned into a hulking man when she's doing her nunchuck. There's no doubt it's a dude.
Yes, yeah, no.
Shot
so
from
it
the
looked
back.
like Cousin It from behind. Cousin It had taken up the nunchucks, and yeah, it was quite amusing actually.
I will say that bringing him back with dog piss
silly.
It was just stupid. And that
Well,
sets your
this was one of
tone.
my biggest dislikes. He's brought back by just walking back shit that happened in the last one with no fucking reason why it's not working. It's just she can still feel him. Oh, he's not dead. And then Kincaid fucking falls into the... He's dreaming, but then he fucking falls into the bloody graveyard and the dog pisses on it. So we find out his dog can get in the dream when the dog bites Kristen, but then the dog turns up in that dream and pisses on it and we're back. Like, I get that you need to do it quickly, but fucking put a bit of thought in there, surely.
Yeah. It was a really bad way to resurrect him. It set the tone for the aesthetic, so it was all fucking colourful. Well, set the tone for the aesthetic.
Well, the grave is just beaming with red light.
Yeah.
The flaming piss is...
He's fucking pink. So, it sets the tone for the aesthetic, and it also sets the tone that this is camp.
Yeah,
You're going to open with a
little
dog fucking pissing to open up the grave that he was in. You're saying that it's camp.
Yeah, maybe.
And camp doesn't work for Freddy. Unfortunately, it seems to ring the cash registers pretty well. But
yeah, but it stopped ringing the registers after a couple of... Once everyone kind of looked at it and thought, after part 4.
yeah, possibly. It's the worst way they've ever resurrected him. It doesn't really have any, as you say, explanation for his return. And it just fucks it all up by giving this... We're campy, we're more out there, there's more Freddy, there's more colour and light, and and the aesthetic is not dark and scary. So we immediately get off on the wrong foot, for me.
Yeah.
Especially considering part 3 was made in what, 87? 87.
Yeah, I think so.
So a year later, you suddenly got a totally different look and feel for how Freddy's going to be. And it didn't work. Kristen seems to lose her shit. She says, she comes into school, she says, I think where's Joey and Kincaid? And someone says, I don't know. And she walks into the classroom, their chairs are empty, and she goes, no! And fucking falls back against the wall, hits her head, and I'm thinking, just slow your roll for a second. I mean, they could have had a bad curry and be...
Yeah, they had a meal together last
Walking
night.
off a case of the
So
shit.
they both got the shits. Like, what?
They turn up
Could
the
be
next
something
day.
else.
Yeah, okay, they're a couple of kegs lighter. Yes, it was a horror story they were involved in. But they're not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an overreaction. And I see where she gets it by seeing her mum in action.
Yeah. You just fly straight off the handle. Well, you don't even have a handle. You just constantly...
Yeah, you've the fucking accelerator stuck to the floor.
Yeah, it was funny because obviously, we get where she's coming from because she's the Dream Master and she knows that this is going on, but it did look kind of funny when she rolled in.
And it's followed up by Robert Englund in drag, which I hope I never have to see ever again. He looks like Alice from fucking the Brady Bunch.
Jesus, you're really giving her a kicking there.
Yeah, I just mean from the look of him in the dress and the hair up and everything, and he turns around. I don't know about you, but I am immediately thinking, I am definitely in a dream. This
But this is the part where this is one of the ones where it's like you've got the canvas to work with, and the best you could come up with was let's put Robert in a dress and then get him to face the camera and show his dirty teeth and go it doesn't work.
and why not just do it with the nurse as she was, and then she just turns around. And
Well, that's what I mean.
or
this is the
she
thing.
starts laughing, just like they did in the first one. Remember,
Yeah.
they're running in the hallway,
Yeah.
and it's the same girl. She's just got the glove.
Part 3, although they probably shouldn't do it the same way. But how it starts,
Chick with the tits out
and then the head changes. Yeah, they probably could have done it a little in a better fashion than that. But he's done it a number of times where he's somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not Robert Englund. The whole
drag.
It's one of the silliest ideas. I mean, it's terrible. It's a terrible idea.
Oh God!
Because it's not like I'm not saying okay. I don't care if you're dressing in drag. That's fine. But when the idea is, let's put Robert in a dress for the scare, that does not work at all. At all.
And again, what were they trying to achieve?
I don't know.
And then he turns around and he dishes out the worst, probably one of the worst lines in the film, which is, "I want to draw blood."
Yes.
And then he just starts squeezing a syringe at her. I'm like, what the fuck about this is scary? No, absolutely nothing.
But I mean, MTV Freddy also has to be entertaining, and this wasn't achieving the purpose.
You know what? I think this was written on toilet paper and someone had desperately needed to drop a loaf and grabbed a portion of the fucking script.
I don't know what was going on.
It was soft and thoroughly absorbent, but it took away piece because a lot of this film seems to be disjointed.
I'm going to have to watch 5 again because I recalled 5 being one of the worst ones as well, but I had some positives about it, whereas this one I seem to be going down and down. The more we talk about it, the less I like it.
Oh, mate. You mentioned the beach scene.
Yeah.
Fucking hideous.
It's terrible.
It is really bad.
Terrible.
And they have that Jaws riff where his glove comes up.
Yeah. Even that. How many riffs can you think of that would be better than that? You can rip off whatever the fuck you want, and this is the best we're coming up with.
And again, it all comes back to, it's my happy place. But that's it.
So
Freddy can invade your happy place. There is no happy place.
Yeah.
It was just silliness. And again, stark lighting.
But it's
daylight.
Her happy place can be whatever the fuck you can imagine that can work in the budget.
Yeah. Do you think this is another one of these cost-cutting measures? Kind of like Rick's death, which is the worst death of the lot.
But I'm sure you can come up with something cheaper that's more effective. It can be anything.
Rick's death is, I believe, if you listen to the documentary, they had more interesting things planned, but they couldn't afford it. So what they ended up doing was whipping together this dojo type of setup, and it is shocking. That is the worst death of the lot.
Again, that's. I mean, when you're working on the schedule and whatever, that's pretty tough if you got something better sorted out. But Jesus, like, that's not the best you can come up with at short notice, is it?
I don't know. Whatever they thought it was, I think they didn't look closely at it.
No.
Because it wasn't done well at all. I've got a lot of problems with the Sheila character. She has limited time, so we really don't really get to know her. I think she says maybe a handful of lines.
Yep.
She has this ridiculous thing where she talks about, I've been up all night studying and I had time to whip together a photon bloody plasma, a Ghostbusters pack. It's a bug thing.
Fucking bug device.
Using waves, sound waves.
Yep. Which then comes back at the end for a quick zap of Freddy, like having a little kind of, I don't know, what would the word be? Like a little totem from each person that's died to kind of bring the power back. Then she fucking zaps Freddy and it does nothing. So what's it here for?
Then Sheila gets attacked in a dream whilst in an exam.
Yeah.
I don't remember her ever saying that she struggled with exams or had a fear or a phobia.
No.
This thing comes out of the desk that looks like, I don't know, the hand of like the Daleks or something.
Yeah.
And all I could think was, why is this in here?
Yeah.
Did she make mention of...
It seems like everything they came up with was just, wherever they fall asleep, that's what we're going with. Like nothing about a fear or taking it other than the happy place. It doesn't really take them anywhere else. Like,
she dies, and the morgue attendants pop her on a gurney, chuck a sheet over her, and he comes rolling out through the fucking front door. And I shit you not, there are about 60 kids crowded around the morgue van. It was like the Beatles were in town. I mean, Parker had to back you, bubbles.
Yeah. Have some tact about this. Like, yeah.
It was just so stupid.
Yeah. I don't know
mean,
what the
we didn't
lot of it
even
was
need
going
the
for.
scene.
Not really.
We don't need to see Sheila get rolled
No,
out.
you don't need to get rolled out.
Oh, it was bloody ridiculous.
Yes, it was. It was not. Yeah, it wasn't a good one. Now you sort of mentioned this as well, and we kind of went through the question, but it's brought up when I can't remember who's talking to their mum, but we started talking about how many people were actually in attendance when Freddy got
that's
roasted.
right. It was Kristen to her mum.
Like, we just seem to, we're talking about all these. Everyone seems to have
You
been
guys
in on it.
barbecued the bloke. You and 400 others had a
it seems
bonfire and killed him.
Yeah, it seems like once we, it seemed like it was organised. We sort of, spread a whisper around town. Yeah, we're having a bonfire tonight.
Someone rigs up. Look, we've actually caught up with Kruger.
Yeah, we
put
caught
the
him.
flyers out.
yeah. Get the word out. Someone jumps on the bike and starts cruising down the street. Bonfire, we caught Kruger. Like, it seemed like the entire town was involved.
Yeah.
There wasn't a fucking dissenting voice saying,
And
maybe we should
they
just...
were, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would seem that Springfield as a whole decided to kill the bloke. But, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think they, seemed like every... Well, the sense I got in the first one was that, there was a lot of... Most of the town was in attendance, but it was a small town. I think this is kind of...
No, the thing for
a bit
me was...
larger.
The
It was a
first one
larger
kind of
affair.
indicated it was... There was a handful
The
of
first
parents.
one indicated there was like a group that just said... There was a group of... There was never a number thrown out, really, but it felt like there was a handful and you could put together, say, you felt like 8 to 10. 8 to 10 came together and said, let's do it.
Not sort of 8 to 10,000.
We didn't have to hire a small fucking hall or something.
Yeah, where are we doing this? Well, the auditorium's booked. We better take it to... look, we'll take it to the football stadium. Looks like a perfect place.
Yeah, we can see 5 in there. I don't know. It just felt... It
Well,
seemed
no
to-
explanation.
it
I mean, it's
seemed to
not
just
this film's
expand-
fault specifically, but still.
No, it's not. But it just seems like everyone fucking knows about what's going on. Everyone seemed to have had a hand in it.
Who's not keeping a secret in Springwood that we fucking lynched a pedophile?
Yeah.
You know? Okay. My last 2 dislikes are all right at the end. The final sting, kind of with her flicking the coin into the fountain, and then you see him reflected in the rippling pond for a second.
Yeah.
No, didn't work.
No.
No, just leave it. Bring it back for 5 later. And 5 actually had a decent lead in. Her pregnancy,
Yep.
which was a decent idea. And my last dislike is you've just put this movie together about this, maniac serial killer, and you end with a song talking about putting hands on me. It's some sort of fucking sexual song. Put your hands on me.
Which is exactly what you're thinking about after you've seen Freddy in drag or something.
I've just survived being murdered in my dreams. But play me out to the play me out to the fucking vocal stylings of someone talking about how they'd like to have sex. It went down badly.
I think so. Most of the music went down badly.
Yeah.
I mean, it fell somewhere between Are You Ready for Freddy, which is kind of down there, and then, up at the upper end of the scale, we've got Dream Warriors. Maybe a little bit of Goo Goo Dolls. Something like that.
It's a sliding scale, I suggest.
Yes.
But that was it for me in the dislikes category.
Right. I've still got a couple.
What do you got?
We didn't mention the dad. Who's duking it out with fucking Captain Arsehole from Halloween as one of the worst characters on a horror film screen.
By the name of Andrew Cap.
Yeah.
Mr. Andrew Cap. Drunkest motherfucker in history.
Every time he's got a bottle or he's half cut or...
He walks up to the hospital and you said to me, how did he get there?
Yeah, he pulls out the car keys. I'm like, he's not fucking... He hasn't driven himself there.
Yeah, then we were also pondering that she came out and found the car mounted up on the curb or something. Because this fuckwit has driven and pissed.
Yeah, we were expecting when he starts trying to stop her from getting out of the house, I was like, we half expected her to piss off Rummy, fucking leave me alone.
Crawl back into the bottle, you fucking scumbag.
He makes fucking Barney Gumble look like a teetotaler. He's always in a bottle of piss somewhere. But he's a shocker. He's abusing her about the dinner she's cooked, and
his character is kind of...
He's in it quite a bit for a fucking one note kind of...
Yeah, whereas, let's face it, she would have found him slumped in his chair, non-verbal, the entire
he's
time.
Trying to tell you off about your dinner. All you're getting is a bit of, you can't understand what he's telling you. He's just giving it to you. He was a shocker.
He turns up in this next film, I believe. God. He's got over his grog problem now.
Yeah, he's cleaned up his act a bit.
He's no longer got a comic strip about it. And he's drunken antics.
Yeah, we've got... oh, shit, what have I got?
Every time he speaks, we don't hear hick. And bubbles come out.
I think we mentioned most of them. I mean, shit, we've talked about bloody Freddy going rogue and fucking turning up wherever he feels like it. But the elevator. Why do we need the elevator?
I don't know. He
must have just been cheap.
He was on the can.
Yeah, he was on the can, then he's in an elevator to the dojo. Like that whole sequence was fucking baffling.
I would have had some sort of poop related.
Well, that's what I said to you. I was like, is the elevator supposed to represent his fucking turd going down the chute or something? Like, what are we doing?
Like he farts and he just shits, his entire body comes out.
But it starts off, remember the cheerleaders bust in?
Yeah, what's that all about?
The cheerleaders bust in and it's like, I don't know, the fear of being caught in my crap by the cheerleaders or something like that.
The fear of being caught with your strides out on the dunny by a bunch of women.
Well, I know that's the first thing I think of. I'm going to check the door twice to make sure that the cheerleaders don't bust in.
The first thing you do is go, ooh, put your hands over your jug and hold on to any farts that are currently on deck. That's basically all you do. I mean, it's a fear. It's
and
fair.
Then he's in the elevator.
Yeah.
I think
it's weird. That's a product of the lack of money or whatever they got caught up in.
Yeah.
They didn't really... They suddenly go to the elevator to finish off whatever they had.
We couldn't have stayed in the bathroom. I love part 2. Started whipping people with with towels.
Speaking of that... Speaking of that.
And we had Bobby Shea moving on from tending bar at the Blue Oyster to teaching the English class. So there was a couple of parallels there. We could have brought things back around.
Again, I'm checking references in that place. Didn't I see you? Did I not see you tending bar dressed like the Gimp in Club Hell somewhere just recently? That was me brother.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know, the whole stuff about the elevator and that just it was terrible.
It was shit.
I don't think I can. Yeah, I think that's covered me.
That's all you got?
Pretty much. Just in general, like the characters coming off part 3, where they all kind of got those alter egos, which kind of made them so much more interesting than the standard fare. Dropping back to this was just a real slide, just to jump off a cliff, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I think putting part 3 and part 4 quickly after each other just shows a massive disparity. Like if you watch them back to back,
huge drop in quality.
I'd be very, very unimpressed with this.
Yes.
This is definitely not the worst of the series. I mean, I gave Freddy's Dead 0. So,
yeah.
I mean, this seems like it's actually not bad. But I feel, was the slide of Freddy Krueger.
It was the start.
Although not costly at the box office, it was costly in the sense of they've never been able to get Freddy back.
Yeah. It felt like from the Wet Dream line on, we'd started the launch over the shark. We just kind of...
And
just kept on.
Craven tried his best to get Freddy back in New Nightmare, but that was a different beast. There was a different... You know, in a way, that was kind of Freddy, a different type of Freddy.
It was.
So feels removed from the rest.
Definitely.
That was sort of Freddy real, like reality Freddy.
And when you go back to Freddy vs. Jason, it's better, but it's still the fucking huckster, that, you know, the jokester,
and the remake kind of tried to straddle a line.
Well, the remake tried to go back to Scary Freddy, but the remake, like, it was just the movie in general was just shit. So
so we've never got Freddy back.
I still think, when I watched that, I still think Jackie Earl Haley wasn't so bad, but he didn't have the stuff to work with so much, and they kind of the way that they did the makeup, it took away a little bit of. So early England, you still got the facial expression. You could still sneer and do that sort of stuff. Jackie Earl Haley couldn't do any of that shit. The face was kind of just stuck as it was, you know.
The remake had a lot of problems, but it just seems that 4 is the beginning of the end of Freddy.
4's where it dipped big time.
And we never seem to have gotten Freddy fully back.
No.
And as I said, New Nightmare, I think we got him back to much more what we wanted of Freddy. But again, it was a slightly different thing because it was all out in this whole meta.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little side project, really.
A good one, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
New Nightmare is a very good film for me. But
he looks different.
Yeah, he looks different. He's got different blades and everything. Like, it's all sort of different. And I just feel that 4's the kicking off point. And although the cash registers were ringing quite hard,
they didn't for much longer after that.
Well, you know, things dropped off with 5, but then they picked back up with Freddy's Dead, and that was probably because
they called it the last one.
Yeah, but we never quite got back anything of Freddy at his best. So it's kind of disappointing to think about this kind of being like the one that I look at and just think, you know, you wrought this upon us.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I liked it. But that's me covered off.
Yeah, no. I think you've summed it up pretty well there.
That's A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. We're on Podomatic, iTunes and Spotify. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. We're on Facebook, Thrill Me Podcast Australia. Instagram at Thrill Me Podcast AU. And Podomatic, thrillme.podomatic.com. Keep an eye on Facebook for our next episode. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers.
Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.